Welcome back to the Hobby Chop Podcast. This is the podcast for the people. I am Big Ken. He is Zip. And if you're watching on YouTube, you see we have a special guest here tonight. Super excited to bring on the promoter of the largest card show in Connecticut, friend of the show, Scott Dimay from EC3 Con. Scott, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you guys tonight?
Doing well. Excited to have you on.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys taking the time to invite me for sure.
Absolutely. It's good. It's fun for me because your show is like the only show I've really gone to a few times in the past year. So I get to talk to the promoter, and you do way more than just promote of the only show I go to. So it's exciting for me.
Was I right saying, and I think I am, you're the largest card show in Connecticut?
I would probably agree with that. I mean, it was never our goal. I mean, I know that there's other marketing out there that says otherwise at the moment. It was never our goal to be the largest, but I'd say we were definitely the largest consistent one at the moment.
Nice. So look, let's just jump into your background a little bit. You know, how you got started promoting. What gap did you see in the hobby that, made you say, hey, there's a need for this, and let's just jump in and do this.
Now, I actually enjoy a little bit of the backstory because a lot of people have been asking about it lately, actually, because they think our shop has been open for years the way that we operate. They think that the show has been around for ages the way we operate. And we're still brand new on the scale of massive shows out there, right? So, 2021, I got the idea to run a little card show. I don't know why, just got the idea to. And I ran it at, if anyone doesn't know, I ran it inside of the Tanger outlets at Foxwoods.
Okay. Yeah.
Behind the scenes, absolute disaster. But for I think we had like 20, 22 tables that signed up, showed up. It was great on the front end for both them and people walking through the Tanger outlets, right? Because I know historically mall shows have done well, because why do you go to a mall? You go there to shop.
Yeah.
So if you have random vendor tables throughout a mall shows actually do well when malls were popular, because now you have foot traffic of people that don't expect it to be there, who are just going to the mall to shop anyway, that will pick up their friend a Tiger Woods item or a Jordan item or a Charizard, right? Something that's within the vending tables that they wouldn't expect to usually see at the mall. And then if it's promoted right, you actually can draw foot traffic for the mall for the other shops as well to make it a busy weekend if it is a slower time for the mall.
It's like one hand washing the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and I remember when you did that show, and I remember I didn't go to it, but I remember people saying, what a brilliant idea, because people at the casino, they're just loaded with cash. Right. So what a great idea to have that. And when you did that there, I remember people saying, oh, we should do one at Mohegan. Right. Let's see if we can put tables in their walkway, just to try to, get people with money to come over and buy cards. So I remember a lot of this conversation going on after you had that show at Foxwoods.
Which I was never aware of, by the way. I never even knew that people cared about it that much or had ideas sparked or anything. But the odd thing was, at the Foxwoods show, there was a local film producer that was there. And he was running something for, I'm sorry, my wrestling knowledge is terrible, Justin Incredible. And he came up to me and he did like a quick little interview with me as like the guy that ran this random show that Justin Incredible was at. And I just remember him saying like, oh, I'm friends with Kevin Nash, the professional wrestler. If you ever want to do like a signing and meet and greet with him, let's connect. I was like, oh, cool. Here's my information. Didn't hear from the guy for a few months. And then it was like a random night in November of 21. I get this call. I'm like, oh, cool. He's calling me. He's like, hey, I've got now all the shows are starting to blend in my mind, but I believe our first show was either February 26th and 27th or 25th and 26th, but I want to go with 26, 27, right? Hey, I've got Kevin Nash coming up to New England, February 26th. The other promoter doesn't want to pay the full contract. Do you want to purchase half the contract? I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do that. That sounds fun. And he's like, do you have a card show set up? No, give me a couple days. I'll take care of that though. So I called Mohegan Sun, figure out, email in, whatever I had to do to figure out how to get in touch with someone, did a walkthrough, explained what I was trying to do. And then within a few days, had contracts set up, bought half the contract for Kevin Nash. And that's how Mohegan Sun EC3 Con was started.
So who had, and I know this probably makes no difference, but my mind says who had the other half of the contract, and where did people have to go somewhere else for a part of that day, or?
Yeah, there's a guy that runs like kind of like an independent wrestling up in like the Springfield area of Mass. That way, if anyone's listening outside of this area, Springfield, Mass, and for what he was trying to accomplish, the full contract is not cheap for Kevin Nash, so he just wanted to try to split it out.
Nice.
So it sounded like you took the opportunity of the guest, and then you're like, let's find a place for the show. Is that how I heard that correctly?
Yeah, so kind of like with the back end of the Tanger Outlets show not being amazing, I did not want to go back to Tanger Outlets or Foxwoods, right?
Sure.
Because I didn't want to deal with some of that same back end stuff that wasn't worth it. And I didn't really have full interest of even starting or running another show because of that frustration behind the scenes, right? But this one phone call was obviously meant to happen in order to turn everything into what it is now. Like everything happens for a reason, and it just was not a thought in my mind to start the show. I mean, in November when he called me, Nicole was either about to have our second, which is Mason, or like just had Mason, like because he was born November of 21. So like I was more worried about becoming, a dad for the second time when we already had, a 17-month-old, and now we have another one any day, to where I was not focused on creating a card show.
Yeah. And I'd say probably for a majority of us, I'll speak for myself and maybe Ken, but I know a lot of listeners, like, and you don't have to go in super depth, but like, what is that back end stuff that is so that was such a problem there? Like, what does that mean for as a promoter running a show? Like, what does that mean?
So that I don't mind going into that.
Okay.
So there was someone else that was involved. So I will leave them out of it for this purpose. But they were supposed to be there and help, and they were not. They were the Tanger Outlets, based on what they told me, was supposed to supply X amount of tables, and we were supposed to rent X amount of tables, and that didn't happen. And then when I had to go down there to just I forget why I had to go down there. It was something banking related, because I also was helping the individual with a few banking questions. I introduced myself to some of the people at the Tanger Outlets as who I was and like what was happening the following weekend. And they were like, who are you and what's happening here? I was like, oh, okay. This is how we're gonna go with this. So long story short, there was zero communication between any one of the triangle of me, the other individual, and the Tanger Outlets. Trying to figure out how many tables they were giving us, where they wanted the tables placed. Because in 21, this was in air quotes like the end of the peak of COVID, as things were kind of reopening, right? So like they wanted table placement a certain way. I wasn't aware of that. They wanted to make sure that mask rules were followed or whatever else was followed at that time, right? But more importantly, like the table placement in order to support all of the
was it like the 6 feet apart sort of thing?
A little, kind of, but I think it was less about the 6 feet apart, and more about just having a good spread of the tables to not have everyone on top of each other on purpose,
Mm.
right? So rather than being in, one section of the hallway, they wanted to spread out through three sections of the hallway instead. That way it just spread people out so no one could congregate in one area as, a group of 20, which, as we know, as at card shows, it doesn't matter how
Yeah.
far apart tables are. Like, people are going to congregate where it's exciting regardless.
Yep.
But they at least wanted to show for reopening post peak of COVID that they were trying to have safe distances.
Yeah, I remember going to shows back at the end of 2021 and wearing masks, being a dealer and wearing masks, and they required even the attendees to wear masks to come into the show. Being you know wasn't easy communicating back and forth,
Correct.
negotiating, right, when everybody is wearing a mask. Yeah, it was a little difficult. Well, let me ask you a question. So you started 20 tables, 22 tables at Foxwoods, right? Now you're like, okay, I've got this half a contract. I go to Mohegan. Like, do they say, you have to fill up a certain amount of the room? Do you guarantee that? Do you just all of a sudden become overwhelmed with how many tables you have to put up there? Or were you pretty confident that, it was going to go better than it did the last time at Foxwoods?
I want to say this with as little ego as possible, but I think many people don't realize the hustle it took to start this first show. Um, I had obviously the meeting with Mohegan was very well and successful because that's where we operate, right? Like, there's no surprise twist to that story. We we obviously made a good impression of who we were, our personality, what we were trying to do. We fit in well with what they were trying to do. And oddly enough, he had tried to get a card show in there for years. So we just happened to talk to the right person at the right time. Um, because I feel like without being there at the right time, we wouldn't be there at all, because we had really no history of running events to even be partnered with Mohegan Sun. Because you gotta remember, from their perspective, if they took us on as a brand new event that has never really run events before and we completely crashed out, what if the two of you called Mohegan Sun to run a show next and your first question to them is going to be, well, why didn't the other show work out?
Hmm.
So Mohegan Sun's image, perception, everything matters to them for every event that they approve to go in there. And the way that we handle the professionalism of our events and their image is very hand in hand at this point. Like, everything we do, we make sure that it can't look bad for them or us, right? So, trying to promote this first show, I don't know how many times you saw me at Enfield or Plainville or, insert 28 other shows from New York to Boston, that you could think of. No one wanted to pay $250 for a 6 foot table when every single VFW show was 30 to 60 bucks.
Yeah.
And we had the bridal expo as kind of like a crutch of like, yeah, but guys, like, there's going to be people at the casino. There's a bridal expo that people have to walk by our room. And everyone's like, yeah, but it's a bridal expo. I'm like, yeah, but if they want gifts for the bridesmaids, the groom and his party, the in-laws, the father, the mother, like, sports isn't just a male dominated thing. Like, you don't know who's walking by to go to the bridal show. There could be a bored fiance that's like, I don't want to be here, and there's sports down the hall. So, like, to sell that first show was the toughest challenge of my life in regards to show promoting.
Yeah, well, I bet it was, and it sounds like Mohegan was kind of very supportive of you too coming in, right? They wanted you to succeed.
Yeah.
Um, were they able to? I guess I got to say this the right way. Were they able to kind of help you out and say, and this is actually a two-part question, because actually the bigger part of this is you talked about the guys running the VFW shows, right? And these are guys, and I know people who do this, right? They find a spot, they pay for the room, they find the tables, they collect the money, and that's it. Nothing else. There's nothing else they need to worry about. You're bringing a show to a casino, right? I mean, there are a whole lot of other things, and I mean, to a point where you need to put people on the payroll, right, to make this thing go off. It needs to be I would think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it needs to be as legitimate as possible, right? I mean, you need the insurance, you need the security. There's a lot of other things that go into it versus me going to the VFW and saying, hey, let me rent a room on a Saturday for whatever amount of money, and yeah, we'll clean up when we're done, like,
Right.
and that's the end of it.
Oh,
So
yeah.
so with that being said, you talk about getting people to pay the money for the tables to come in, right? Where they're used to paying 40, 50, $60 at a VFW show. And then you're like, hey, they're 200 or $250. How supportive was Mohegan Sun? How lenient were they? Or was it like you just had to put that sales pitch on and hope it worked out?
Oh no. So on the contract side, and I want to make sure I word this correctly because it's no disrespect to anyone, but on Mohegan's side, they had a square footage that they were selling me at a contracted price. It is not up to them to worry about if I made money or not.
Mm-hmm.
And for our first show, what a lot of people don't know is the amount that we lost to run the first show. Because the first show, I was able to get 58 tables out of the 100 table floor plan to trust me. I added 2 tables for myself to make it 60 tables because 60 sounds a lot better than 58. And then somehow, with zero marketing experience, like zero show running experience, somehow we ended up getting 1,300 people through the first ever show in 2 days. But yeah, so like on the Mohegan side, and I mean this as respectfully as possible, once I agree to that payment, there is a percentage of like, yes, they want us to be successful in order to come back again and want to pay that again, right? Like it is absolutely a sales job for our partners at Mohegan Sun to fill the space. But it's not their job to set us up for the correct pricing and margin in order to be successful with our event on our end, which is why we had to price tables the way we had to. And you figure if you just do the simple math at $250 a table, we had 40 tables that we could not fill within the space of the room, which is a $10,000 lack of income just on the table sales.
So you were a little bit before your time. Because now you're deciding like how big does the show get now, right? Yeah. I mean, you're going back a few years where you couldn't sell, your 60 tables, and now I think you've grown, show after show after show. Where I know, and you can certainly talk about that. I know you've outgrown the room we're in now. That it's going to another room with even, more space in it. If you want to just talk a little bit about that now.
Yeah, so I think everyone understands as whoever listens to this, whoever comes to our events, I think everyone understands that I don't like talking about this as a business because I actually don't sleep for the weekend of running the show because I love it this much. I enjoy the hundreds of people that send me DMs of what they picked up, that send me DMs of like how excited they are that they can't wait to come to the show. People that run into me at the show to say hi, show me what they picked up. All of you guys as dealers for how successful the weekends are for you guys. Like my passion is to make sure that everyone else is successful. We have never considered the money. We have never considered the success because when we started this, I was working full time. And I think, Ken, you may have heard me say this directly a few years ago, but like we priced everything as fairly as possible because it wasn't for the income, because I had a full-time job. I had a job where I was comfortable with my job, comfortable with my life, and I just enjoy doing this. Mm-hmm. I don't think we'd be at the same spot today if all we did was treat it like a business for the money, because I wouldn't have been able to afford to lose at the first show how much we did. Now, at the time, I still couldn't afford to lose what we did, but it has grown into something bigger because of it, right?
Yep.
With me having a full-time job, I didn't rely on the hobby, the correct amount of attendance, the correct amount of table sales, air quote around that, like to feed my family for the week. And that's what helped to propel this so far, is people understand and see my passion, and how I've said things has never changed because I've always felt this way.
Yeah, it's great.
So for us to go from 60 tables to now 300 was never the goal. The goal was just to run the best show I could for the vendors and the attendees. Because if you have a great show, enough attendees are showing up and enjoying it, vendors are happy, giving attendees a good experience, attendees spread the word. If you have a bad show, vendors aren't happy, vendors aren't willing to give deals or talk to people because they're giving them now a bad experience because we didn't provide the right event for you guys to be successful.
Well, you must get that a lot too. That one of the things I always think about is it's really the perspective of the dealer at the show, right? Whether you really have you know you have a good show or not. And I could be at the same show and somebody say, this show is terrible, where I had a phenomenal show, right? So you hear people a lot will blame the promoter, like, oh, he put me in the wrong place, oh, they didn't do this, or oh, they didn't do that. But then there's other people that have successful shows. So that being a challenge, like as a dealer going to a show and to be successful, right? Our challenges like are pretty, wide open. Everybody sees what's going on. But as far as the promoter, like, what are the biggest challenges that you have when it comes to a show to be successful, beyond like outside of the dealers, right? Because like a dealer, we could say anything, the show was great, the show was terrible, whatever, right? And it's really our own perspective. But you as a promoter, like if you've got the people coming through the door and you don't have to worry so much about paying for your space, like what are some of the other things that affect you that us as dealers, that like we don't know? We have no idea like what you go through. And you may say like, these people have no idea that these are the things I'm doing. Because I'm sure there's some things there that you're doing that we have no idea. Like we just think, did you get enough people to come through the door? Did they have enough money? And were they buying from me? I mean, those are the three things that are the most important for a dealer, right?
Well, let's start with the basic after a show is over, right? And then we'll get through like the whole point of like getting through the positive of promoting a show. You just brought up both sides of the dealer's perception of the same show. And it doesn't matter if it's my show or someone else's show, right? That dealer perception is actually the number one challenge on the short term. Fortunately for us, our wait list is so big that if your perception is that it is not the show for you anymore, that's okay. We have someone else. And I don't want to make that sound like arrogant, but it's like, that's okay. If you don't have the stuff that is selling at a show like ours, and we're just not the show for you, it's not a big deal. Like I don't need to waste 45 minutes on a call to understand why. Like, in certain cases, do I want to understand why so I can maybe make tweaks or adjustments? Yes. But if you just don't have the right inventory for our show and we're just not the show for you, that's okay. Right. We have a wait list that we can and backfill on that. But that negative perception can spread no matter how good the show was. Right. So we can have a show where there's record attendance, and if half the dealers are mad, I need to understand why. If you have 300 tables and there's 210 different vendors, and there's like 10 vendors who aren't happy, you're like, all right, again, maybe there's not the show for us. But you have a high portion of dealers who aren't happy after having a record show. Now you need to take more of that feedback as to why. Now, I've taken, regardless of what I just said there, I've always taken all the feedback anyway, because I want to give people the voice and the opinion to talk about things. But when it's the same person show after show after show that's kind of giving the negative, it's like, buddy, I'm sorry, it's not me.
Yeah.
Like where
Yeah, well,
this is that first date where it's not me, it's you. It's you.
well, you're talking about a hobby where accountability is not like a thing that people.
What?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
Like I've spoken on this a few times, and I can't stand it. Is like if I was to set up at that show and it didn't go well, my first thought would be, damn, I didn't have the inventory to make it worth my while, and I wasted my money to set up, but it's on me because I didn't have the right cards. And I don't understand how, I mean, with the hobby and what it is, it's like if you have the right cards at a fair price at a show like that, they're gonna sell.
well, that's the thing. Like, I appreciate that you want to take the accountability, but also if we gave you a bad show, then we gave you a bad show, right?
Sure.
Like, there is accountability on both sides to say, okay, that show was slammed. This is on me. Or that show did not draw enough traffic at all for anyone to be successful. So now I am going to have some frustration towards the promotion of it.
Yeah, and I would think as a promoter, right? If I was just going to break it down, my job as a dealer, right, is to secure the table, show up with the right inventory, right, and price it so I can sell, right? I mean those are the steps that I need, right, to do well to be successful. And then as a promoter, right, set up the show, sell the table, and bring the attendees through the door, right? And you would think your three things, my three things, we're all living in this harmonious world. But I go to shows every weekend, and it's there's always that handful of people. I don't care how many people came through the door. They're just tire kickers. They're the, I did, and I know that I'll put this on me. I did a show last weekend, and I recapped it. And the first thing I said, I only sold a couple cards out of my case, and I was surprised that I sold those cards because I had no inventory. I had the worst inventory. I showed up hoping to buy, right? I showed up, I put in my case what I had. If somebody was going to buy it, I was willing to sell it. But at the end of the day, it was terrible inventory. It wasn't right for that show, right? I'm not going to say this was a terrible show. Nobody bought anything from me. No, I showed up, my mind, I'm going to buy, and I bought well. I came home and I did a whole podcast on all the great things I bought at the show because that was the game plan. And I think that's the problem with the, people that, are setting up at shows. You need to have a good game plan. You can't blame it on the promoter or blame it on the location or blame it on people not wanting to spend money or the time of year or the season. You need to have a game plan. You need to know the show and go in with a plan to be successful. Just like you're saying as a promoter, my plan is to be successful and I'm going to figure out a way how to do it.
Well, let's twist that for one quick second as well. Let's just say it wasn't a good buying show for you either. Could it be because what you were looking to buy, people just didn't bring? Also, how many times have you done that show for people to know your habit of what you like to buy? And while you were at that show, if you didn't buy strong, did you hear people go, "Oh my God, if I knew that's the type of stuff you bought, I left that type of stuff at home. I'll bring it next time," right? Like, so I think too many of the negative people expect shows to only be a sales atmosphere. And if a show, like, I had a lot of feedback that this last one, many people were coming into the room to sell. So if you are a strong buyer in the room, you absolutely loved that type of atmosphere. If you're only looking to be a strong seller with zero buying, you may not thrive in that type of atmosphere, right? So at this is one of the reasons why I've said, and no offense to any, like, we've had great new vendors, we've had great vendors who just kind of tapered off in vending and just didn't come back to the show, right? But I've always said my perfect bubble would be the exact same dealers, the exact same layout, the exact same event for every customer. that walks through those doors, every attendee that walks through those doors, and it's up to you guys to change your inventory. Because then if they're looking for you in the same spot every show, you can build a customer base the same way I build a customer base as a brick and mortar store, right? You can build relationships, you can build friendships with people coming to your table if you're in a familiar spot every time.
Mhm.
Obviously, this isn't a perfect world, and obviously there are some dealers that need to be swapped out.
I
And
think
it's
that's a
nice.
great way to put it, though, Ken. For you specifically, like we've talked a ton of times, is like that show is excellent for you because women's basketball, like
Yeah.
that is like for you, it is so great. Whereas you do other shows, and it's like, this isn't the right inventory, but you have your people who know where you are and come to you for
Mhm.
women's basketball because I'm
Yeah.
standing there with you, and they're chomping at the bit to buy women's basketball.
Yeah.
That
It-
that I don't see that anywhere else. We talk about this every single time.
Yeah. It helps that there's a basketball tournament going on right down the hall, right? So there's tons of boys and girls that are all playing basketball that are coming in. It helps that two of the shows is during, maybe even three is during the WNBA season, and it's usually like that June show always seems to fall on a weekend with a home game, right? So you've got all the people coming to the game, and then they'll come in, and now even the last show, right? UConn women were playing. So then you had all the other people coming in. So yeah, it's such a great show for somebody like myself who does a lot with the women's college basketball, the WNBA stuff. Yeah, it's definitely a great show for that. I mean, I take that stuff other places and it does, pretty well, but the Mohegan show, it's just phenomenal. Yeah.
I also think I'll go ahead.
I was just gonna say to finish that on the Sunday when how the vendors could walk in through the top through Michael Jordan's, but Sunday they couldn't. I didn't realize that, so I was walking in there, and then I ran into Gino Oriema, shook his hand, like as we were getting turned away, like that was just a perfect encapsulation of why that show like works for that niche market. So
I was allowed up there, and I walked through to get one of our voice actors on the other side of the door while the UConn women were doing drills, the entire team, and then Gino walked in as well on Sunday morning. So like I was able, I actually walked through their entire drill because I was allowed up there, and I was like, sorry guys, like not trying to interrupt, like just like being very like not fanboy about it because like I'm there as a professional. They're trusted with the access to walk through there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to interrupt their drill, nor did I even want to walk through or around their drill because that's what they're up there to do. They're up there to focus,
Yeah.
That's why you can't let Ken up there with he'd have the cards and the Sharpies ready.
You know what's great though? You know what's really cool is when there's teams playing like that was that weekend. Michigan women were there, and we saw Silas Swords walk by with two of her teammates, right? And when the Sun is playing, last year they were playing the Chicago Sky, right? And we got in the elevator, and I'm looking up at all these that I know, like in fact, I was looking them up later to see who I was in the elevator with because it's so incredible that where else are you going to find that? Where else are you going to go to a card show, end up on an elevator with professional athletes and things like that? So,
well, you got a taste of why I like to go to the Basketball Hall of Fame event there. I mean, I've been in the elevator with Allen Iverson. I mean, you guys have seen the pictures I posted of being there. Everyone I've gotten to meet, done shots with Gary Payton. Like, you're not going to a random card show at another state and you go downstairs to a bar and there's Gary Payton that you can like chat with and do shots with. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The glove.
Well, look, getting back a little bit to the show, you have, we have sports, you have TCG, and you have just other like non-card vendors that are at the show too, right? So how do you balance that? And I mean, I think I had two questions, but I'm just going to mix it into one. It's like, how do you do you vet people that are coming in, number one, and just how do you balance? Do you say like, okay, we've got enough of this, or we need more of that type of thing?
You want the truth?
Yeah.
It's not easy. In this market right
I
now,
thought you were
think
going to say
about
ask
how
my
many.
wife.
Think about how. Well, yeah, Nicole is the greatest support behind the scenes. I'll make sure she can hear that as she's in the kitchen right now. But there's I check with her as she approves vendors to confirm where we are on the balance of sports to non-sports. Let's just call it two categories at the moment, right? Because a lot of the non-TCG stuff would still be categories under the TCG non-sports side, right? Our first show ever was only 60 tables, as we've already covered, and it was probably like a 55 to 5 split of sports to TCG. And I had promised as a kid who grew up with basketball cards and the beginning of the Pokemon craze that I was going to develop both sides. I am a firm believer, and maybe this is just not giving myself enough credit. If we tried to copy JPRS and became a sport only show up here, we would have failed very quickly. A lot of dealers that travel around to shows will determine how well a show is going to do long term based on the success of the amount of kids and families that show up. And I think being a well balanced event, kind of like shopping at Walmart, where there's a little bit of everything for everyone in the family walking in, I think that what's created our success. Because the three of us right now, if Ken, you only liked college and WNBA cards, and you know, if there was zero of those there and we invited you to go, you're like, guys, I'm going to sit this one out. Right. So if you sit this one out, but we wanted to go as a trio, we might go, you know what? Let's skip it this time. Ken didn't want to go. Well, if you're well rounded, everyone in the friend group is going to go together. Right. The tough part in this current market is the hype and spike of not only Pokemon, but now One Piece and the amount of sports dealers that are adding the hype to their display cases. So someone like you that's always been WNBA cards, when you apply, you might still tell me you're still WNBA cards and sports cards, right? And then, excuse me, and then the show comes and you have an entire display case of Pokemon stuff. And it's like, when did that happen? Right? Like, I'm not going to go back and vet our current vendors to re-verify your inventory when you're the one that's applying every time. You've seen the application, right? Like, you're the one reapplying every time. If you didn't tell me that you added Pokemon cards, I can't control that. My argument to some of the very hardcore sports guys that don't want to see TCG at all is our first ever show was 60 tables. Our current show is 300. If the split was a little swayed TCG, and let's just say it was 140, 160, right? At 140 tables, that's still 2.5 times more sports tables than our first ever event that you enjoyed. So, like, we do our best to keep that balance, but if it sways a little one way or the other, it's tougher to have full like worry about that, because at the end of the day, we still have amazing vendors. We still have an amazing group of attendees that enjoy the show. And you're not going to keep everybody happy. You're going to have those one or two people that just don't think the other side matters at all. You're going to have probably a couple of the, sports guys that will never come back because they saw a Pikachu card, right? And you're going to have a couple TCG people that are like, I don't understand sports.
Yeah.
But if you want a really good laugh, this is what you have to tell everyone on both sides. Sports people don't understand anything other than sports collecting if they don't want to, right? And a lot of TCG collectors don't understand why people collect sports. When people ask me that on the sports only side, especially at the shop, they walk in, they see our Pokemon stuff, they want to find the sports stuff, and they're like, I don't understand this. I'm like, well, our Pokemon collectors also don't understand why you collect sweaty dudes. Right? So like if you're going to make fun of someone for collecting artistic characters that real people have created and drawn, understand that like they don't understand why you collect pictures of guys on a field either. So like that's why we keep the balance the best we can so that everyone sees something that they want.
Yeah. I have a number of people that that will complain and say, "Oh, there's too much TCG," and I always say, "Well, it's less competition for me."
That's the other side of it, right? Both sides have
You,
less
you want to put
competition for the
more in
same
there?
size
That's
show.
fine. Yeah, put more in
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
And honestly, a good way to like tell how popular a certain market is you could tell by the grading numbers. And I took a screenshot today. It's like 3 out of every 4 cards that are getting submitted for grading are TCG cards. So
Now,
like,
I would also blame the sports market for that, though. Like, there's not a lot of product out for 2025 yet, and Cam Ward isn't so hot. Cam Scatabo is down, right? So like, I would blame the volatility of the individual people playing the sports for that 3-to-1 ratio as well.
I guess, but the boom has just like been crazy. What I was saying is I think you're keeping it like the level of tables fair when like you can look at raw data of popularity as like cards submitted, which I think is pretty correlation's not causation, but it's clear there for a
No,
reason.
you're onto something. 100%. I agree with you.
It's clear how popular it is, and it's like yeah, like what would it do if it was more Pokemon or
Right.
TCG? I don't want to just but like,
no, I think it's fair to, at this point, until the current One Piece pump continues, I think it's very fair that the TCG side is essentially Pokemon heavy. So if you call it the Pokemon half, like, it's covering all TCGs in today's world. You're not offending anybody.
Which is funny enough too, because my brother-in-law, he just moved back. He finished school. He did video game design down at Full Sail in Florida, and he goes to that show with me for the TCG side specifically. Well, I mean Pokemon and One Piece. He loves One Piece too, and I'm like, explain this to me, and he's like, yeah, so they're pirates. I'm like, they're pirates? That's what One Piece is. They're pirates, and
yeah.
The main one is Luffy, and is he a monkey pirate? Is that what it is? Or
he's not a monkey pirate, it's just his name is Monkey D. Luffy. So like that's the name of him.
Gotcha. I thought it was actually I thought they were all monkey pirates. I'm learning right now.
No, but it's good for you to actually ask those questions and learn, because as of like 4.5 days ago, we are in what's going to be a One Piece boom. Now, I thought the Instagram videos were kidding that your typical sorry, name with this offends. If it does, and I mean you're kind of part of it, but most of the people that were only buying and selling Pokemon for the profits that then got too much into the FOMO of pump and dumps are now dumping for One Piece, because One Piece has a much higher high of product values coming out of boxes. People want to talk about MSRP issues with sports and Pokemon all day long, but One Piece just got hit with it very hard. The newest set that just came out is supposed to MSRP around 120 for a booster box. It came out of the gates closer to 180, and as of this morning broke 350. Because of the amount of people. I've taken like 45 calls in the last 3 days asking if I carry One Piece, and the answer is I do, but you're 3 days late of buying it right now. So you're gonna see a massive increase of One Piece, to where we're actually on the anime voice actor side, we're actually bringing back throughout the year this year some of our One Piece voice actors that did very well before this boom, because they're just going to do even better now.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's really interesting about it, do you guys know the YouTube channel Chasing Cardboard?
I don't, but I've heard of it.
Okay, so a quick rundown of it. This guy's name, I believe, is Ty Wilson, and his entire like livelihood, what he does, basically. Yeah, you remember the show American Pickers?
Yeah.
So he does that, but he'll go around the country buying card collections only, and he has a really good like video production. It looks like it could be a like on TV production. It's a really high quality YouTube channel. And someone he bought out, their collection was valued like a little over $100,000. It was all sports. And the dude sold all of it, I think for like 65 or 70 grand, to put all of it into One Piece. Like, this is someone who bought and killed it in sports and is like, yeah, liquidating to move into One Piece now. And it was really interesting to hear that, especially when someone has, a 6-figure collection that they're ready to just liquidate and move that money into something. It was just something that I watched and was like, baffled by, but clearly sounds like there's some fire behind that smoke.
Here's the way to explain it. Would you like a 52 top sealed box?
Sure.
Right.
Right.
The same way that Pokemon people would love a base set sealed box, first edition, right? And the same way that this is the early One Piece right now.
So these are the first boxes of this One Piece that are coming out?
This is the 14th set. So they number it. So OP13 just came out. OP14 is coming out in like a month or two, right? So they number it that way. So you kind of have an idea of the sets. But if you were collecting One Piece over the last 2.5, maybe 3 years, don't quote me that it started. If you had the early boxes for $100, they're running like a couple thousand a box now. And they're going to boom even worse with this influx of people going to it. The same way in the 80s, people probably laughed at people for collecting 52 tops. And now everyone would love to have 52 tops, right? The difference of all of the TCGs out there is that One Piece is backed by an anime fan base that has been running for 30 plus years. So so while Pokemon is turning 30 this year in 26 as an actual trading card game, One Piece is 30 years old on the anime side. So it's almost like if Lorcana actually took off better than it has due to the 100 years of Disney backing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The anime fan base is just a different animal in a positive way than your Disney fan base on the card side.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm interested to see, my brother-in-law will be in it and telling me all about it. I'm curious to see how it performs, honestly, because
actually Ken, it's kind of like, oh god, sorry.
No, I was just the fact that it has that the back of the anime series like that. It's kind of it's really interesting.
Like Ken, it's kind of like to circle it back to sports for a second. It's like the WNBA boom right now, right? Like last year we had Clark. Everyone from Connecticut knows who Paige is if you're a UConn fan, right? Yeah. But the country as a whole has been tired of UConn winning for 30 years. So while we know Paige deserves the accolades of being Clark before Clark was Clark, like it's because people just hate UConn, right? Like it doesn't matter. We could have had Diana Taurasi or Sue Bird or Stewie or someone else put WNBA cards in the map way before now, but the pending continued boom of WNBA cards is exactly how you could compare to the starting of the boom of One Piece at the moment.
Nice, yeah. And nobody realizes what Gino's doing out there as he's recruiting and as he's been doing it all these years, just bringing the top players.
Yeah, what was the score before we started this?
Yeah, it was 71-24, I think.
God.
It's like not even fun to watch the game, you know. It gets to a point where you're like, oh, I can't wait till February and March when there's real good competition.
When they're within 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say when they win the championship by 55 instead of 75.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So a couple other things I want to touch on: autograph guests.
Yes.
You know, bringing in athletes. Sanaya Rivers was at the last one, which was awesome, right? Like, what's the challenges of bringing, getting like, I know you bring a lot of the voice actors in, but actual. I don't want to make it sound. I don't want to put them down and say actual, but like to bring in athletes, like because I think it's more
there's
difficult.
You're right. There's different levels of celebrity status there, right? Especially based on what you enjoy as a collector or versus someone else, right?
Yeah.
So the we'll touch on the voice actors first. So the voice actors are generally easier to have 5 or 6 because on the back end we're running off of a guarantee for the whole weekend. We pay flight, we pay hotel, we pay food, we pay per diem, we pay Ubers, we pay everything you could think of, or everything you may not have thought of, right? But if, Ken, if I was bringing you in for a signing, right? If you're a voice actor, you come in on a $3,000 guarantee for the weekend. Every time someone meets you for $30, it chops that guarantee down. At the end of the weekend, if you made $4,000, I owe you nothing extra. So
Oh,
it's an easier contract to bring people in that way, right?
yep. Yeah.
Rikishi and his son are coming to the next event for both days as wrestlers on a guarantee. It makes it so much easier. And first of all, Rikishi's awesome with the fans anyway. As someone who was never a wrestling fan ever, I understand our wrestling fan base.
Mm.
And Rikishi was texting me, asking me to come back to this next event, which was very cool. So when we had him November of 23, this is a wide enough gap for our new fan base or people who may not have met him in November of 23 or couldn't make the show or whatever. This was a big enough gap to bring him back in 26, right? So, it's the guarantees are way easier than just putting out a paycheck for someone, selling tickets and trying to make the money back.
Mm.
There hasn't been a autographed guest on the sports side that we've had to pay a fee to show up that we've ever actually made the money back on or limited our risk, right? And we pay the same things for them. We pay flight, we pay hotel, we pay Ubers, we pay like whatever it is to get them there. We pay all that as well as a fee to them and a fee to their agent. That's the difference. That's the difference there. Now, I used to go to Patriot signings at the Mansfield shows that were like an hour and 45-minute drive from my house whenever I could. Because I didn't want to do that every weekend. That's a long drive, right? But whenever, once a month, every other month when the shows were up there, I used to go meet them. I mean, I had great experiences meeting Matthew Slater and a bunch of Patriots players if you're Patriots fans at all, right? So for me, I would rather bring in the right talent like Sanaya Rivers, like Doc Gooden, who are going to give the fans a good experience.
Mhm.
And Sanaya was just so much fun to work with. She was so much fun to see, like the smile that she had on her face meeting everyone while giving everyone a great experience and everyone having smiles on their faces for wanting to meet her. Like that's why I do it. We're not an assembly line. We're not trying to nickel and dime everyone for the highest, jab of your wallet in order to cover what it costs to bring these athletes out. Like we're probably going to put out tickets for Rodney Harrison, probably the cheapest that anyone has ever seen them.
Mm.
Not because he's not worth the value, but because I used to stand in those lines too. I want the families to have a good experience meeting the athletes.
Mhm. That's awesome. That's awesome to think that way and to operate, the business that way. And I know, I've done shows all over the country, and it's like a family magnet. The when you're bringing in the right people, the autograph guests, that you'll bring people in that aren't even card people because they'll show up at the table. They'll be like, "Oh my god, I had no idea this stuff was even here. I'm just here to meet so and so or my idol
Right.
or whatever." But you got the whole family wearing the jersey and holding a, whatever, a bat, a stick, the hat. So yeah, and I know that's a huge part of a lot of shows and bringing people in and watching that escalate too with your show is going to be exciting to see that.
Yeah, like we had Allen Iverson on our radar, right? Like a few people that are close to me know that. Prior events, including that big one down in New Jersey that never ran again, right? Allen Iverson was like $170 for an auto and $170 for a photo op. So you're 350, rounding up to $10, you're 350 into meeting Allen Iverson. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money that is not worth it in my opinion. Right? No matter how much you're a fan of someone, I think that there's price points for certain people that just don't make sense. And that's no diss to Iverson. I think Iverson was a great player. I would love to work with Iverson in the future, but I would not put him out at that price point because now you're also drawing $350 out of the room if you want to look at it from the business perspective for the dealers, right? It doesn't matter how big of a draw Allen Iverson might be to get people out. Let's just say you could be at the 2 to 225 price range for the exact same experience. Well, you just saved people $30 to $150, as well as didn't drain that out of the fans and the customer base to walk through the room.
Yeah, 100%. So, looking down the road, you've been doing this now, or what, 4 years? You've been running this show 4 years. I mean, if I asked you 5 years from now, besides wanting to be retired, um, you know, what, any idea what the shows will look like 5 years from now? Any visions, any innovations, anything you're thinking of, like looking down the road?
I have the number one comment to make about all of this on the promoter side that most promoters either already know, won't listen to, or won't care that I say it. Everybody is a customer of the event. Everybody. The dealers are the primary customer right up until the attendees show up. Then the attendees are the primary customer to make sure you guys are treating them well, right? If an attendee comes up and says, I'm having a great experience with this dealer, awesome. If they come up and say, I'm having a bad experience with that dealer, you as a dealer are no longer the customer in that moment. We need to help the attendee, who is the primary customer in that moment, right?
Yep.
The casino and their image is my customer. The sales reps and my host for the weekend of our event that's trusting us to keep that image strong are our customers. The security that we hire, the cashiers that we hire, everyone that we hire, while I'm technically their customer because we're hiring them, they're my customer to treat them right, to want to be hired going forward, right? Now, I know it sounds like a tangent, a long curveball tangent based on what your question was, but there's a reason for that. The growth of the show has never been the priority, like I said earlier. However, as everyone is aware, after February, the growth of the show is happening into the bigger expo center at Mohegan Sun. Which I have to stress to everyone that's listening to it, the expo center at Mohegan Sun. We're not moving to Hartford, because every time I say expo center, everyone's like, Hartford, why? We're still going to run this the same way we always have, teetering that fine line of, are there enough vendors for how many attendees are going to come, and is there enough space for the attendees to show up, right? Versus, is there enough attendees compared to how many vendors we put in that room, right? The expo center could probably hold over 1,000 tables. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we aren't ready for 1,000 table show. We have the wait list for 1,000 table show, but we don't have the attendees for 1,000 table show, right? We are going, actually, I think Nicole just talked to them about getting an idea of what our floor plan is going to look like in the new space for June. I told them to design it the same way as if it's a ballroom. Keeping aisles similar, not too big, not too small. Keeping a perimeter of tables around the inside tables, because I've been at a show where your table is right here looking out and there's no tables up here. No one comes down those aisles unless there's a reason to look at both sides, right?
Yep.
So we're having them design this whole area to be the exact same. And just like our first show ever, I don't care what the cost is to run in there now in regards to how many tables we're going to put in there, right? I'll take your feedback candidly, since anyone listening, you have never heard the next question I'm about to say. We only anticipate going up 10 to 20% on tables over where we are right now at a maximum, to make sure that the new space is correctly utilized for you guys as vendors. Now, the question is, I'm sure like you would be happy to hear that, right?
Yeah. 100%.
You know, if we told you I'm going to go to 700 tables and I want to be the biggest show ever, you're going to be very nervous going into a June show on Father's Day weekend at a brand new space at Mohegan Sun, where we need to push people for marketing purposes away from the old side and into the new side, right? But if I tell you we're only going to go from 300 to 325 or 300 to 330 tables, a maximum 10% increase. I think 20% is actually too high at 360. A maximum 10% increase. You probably have way more comfort to not only sign up for the show, but to help push the marketing, to help push flyers, to help repost about it, to help talk about it, because you know that we have everyone's focus and priority at heart all the time of a good event.
And it's only a 5% increase in competition to me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So if we keep that balance for you guys, we keep that promise from day one of you guys of just giving you the best event. That's all we can hope for. I'd love to say in 5 years that we're getting 10, 15, 20,000 people through the doors. I'd love to say that we're having attendees driving and flying in from all over the country. Notice I said attendees and not vendors. I have stayed true since day one that all of our vendors are always going to be the only ones invited to the next event for a reason. I'm not going to let national dealers in and remove you, right? Would I love if national dealers start flying in and we get exposure from other places? Of course. But if we're not the event for them, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, and if you have any friends that are national dealers that listen to this, like, you know, I hope that we're on their radar. I hope that they understand that, you know, we do really put on the best event we can, and one day it may be worth their travel. But if I don't have space for them, it's not any offense to how good they are as a person or a vendor. I'm staying true to how we've grown the event from day one.
Yeah. And I would imagine too, I mean, one of your goals, and I'm saying this from looking from the outside in and knowing you and knowing the show, but you know, Mohegan has a lot of things going on. And just like you talked about before, there was a bridal expo going on. And I talked about, you know, there's basketball, there's usually big events going on around this one. But I'm sure at some point, you would want to be the big event, right?
Well,
People
taking over
like,
the Expo Center, we will be. So it's funny you bring that up because we won't have the basketball tournament in the Expo Center anymore because we are the Expo Center.
So, well, okay, maybe you've gotten there earlier then, right? Now that you're the big event. So, I mean, it has a lot to do with rooms and trying to get rooms that, you know, over that weekend and things like that. When there's so many different things going on, of course, the price of the rooms, you know, are you know, they continue to go up, and it's hard to get a room, you know, there because of the prices. So, you know, when you become the big event, then maybe it becomes different. It becomes easier to get a room and more affordable to get a room and stay, because I tell you what, that place has got everything. It's got the restaurants, it's got the shops, it's got, you know, the gaming, right? There's just so many things going on there that not only, you know, even when I go there for the card show, we do the trade night, I try to do 7 other things because I'm there and we're able to do it, right? So
I legitimately don't know a better venue. Like, not like to gas you up or anything. Like, I legit don't know a better venue if you take the whole casino, right? Right. If you take all that into to factor into it, I don't know a better venue.
And I don't think it's gassing me up at all. I think it's just the fact that Mohegan Sun has built itself to be an amazing event space where there's events that are probably fighting to get in those doors every day. And they're turning events away because they don't have the capacity to take every single event that wants to be there for the exact same reason, you know. And we're on Mohegan Sun's website just shy of 365 days a year, because by the time November's done, you give them the couple days to get February posted, right? February's already posted on their website. You know, it's a big deal. I mean, September, Matt Rife is going to be back in the building, and he actually has a show Friday night and Saturday so far. Last time they added more. The same exact day that we're there on Saturday. And last time that didn't hurt us at all. You know, like having 10,000 people coming to the arena and seeing that we're there as well did not hurt us during the February event that he not only was in Mohegan Sun, but actually came to our event.
yeah.
Well, that's cool. I just watched his Christmas special like last night. So I meant, when is he coming? I might try to go see that.
September 5th and 6th, he will be at Mohegan Sun, and we are September 6th and 7th, or I have that backwards. Whatever that weekend is.
That seems like a good overlap. That seems like a really good overlap. Yeah.
Hold on. September No, I'm sorry. He's there. He might be there the 5th and 6th, and we are also there the 5th and 6th. So
Okay.
he might, or he's there Friday the 4th and Saturday the 5th. Either way, he's overlapping with us again.
Nice.
And the last time he overlapped with us was the record 5 shows, and he actually that was a funny story. I don't know if you ever heard it or not, but one of the security guards at the door was really good friends with me. He was like, "Dude, come here." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Matt Rife's in your event right now." I was like, "No, he's not." He's like, "No, I'm telling you, Matt Rife just walked by with 2 different security teams, like Mohegan security team and his security team." I was like, "Dude, don't mess with me. Like I'm the king of sarcasm, and don't mess with me." I look over and there's Matt Rife doing deals at tables. I walk right up to him, and I'm sure like security kind of like gave like the nod, like, "Hey, he's fine to walk up to him," you know. And I just introduced myself to him, and he was very friendly to talk with. Like, if I could, I would totally book him for a meet and greet at our event before his show. He took a selfie with me, took a photo with Nicole and I in front of our big backdrop. Like, I add that into our story every so often because it was to go back to like Ken's question before of like us hiring people. Like, we didn't hire him to stop by, right?
Right.
And I don't ever fanboy. I think especially for all the experiences of every single person I've ever met, like people are still people, right? Like I've met I'm very grateful to meet as many people as I have versus some fans that would love to have the same experiences. But it was an honor that he chose to stop by. It was cool that he chose to stop by because he wasn't paid to stop by.
Yeah.
And then he bought a LeBron rookie off of a couple guys and gave them 7th row tickets for free to the concert or the stand up that night.
I was just gonna ask, is he TCG or sports? That was literally my next question.
I would definitely pin him as like 100% sports. Like Matt, if you ever hear this and you like TCG too, like we'll take
Yeah,
care of
I
you.
think
But
Matt's an avid listener of the Hobby Chop, so I'm sure
He
I'm
no,
always
sure
I
he
mean
knows.
that'd be all.
comments. Yeah.
He's looked at my stories a few times, or whoever runs his Instagram has when we tag him. So they, you can see who sees your stories. So I've had him or whoever runs his account look at our tags, but I've never had any like response or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe now he will.
Listen, you never know what can happen. I always have random random things up my sleeve. I never intended to open a card shop. Here I am having the blast, having so much fun 7 days a week right now with the card shop.
Yeah.
Never
It,
thought
it,
that
it,
Nicole and I
give a
would
plug
jive
for
so
that.
well.
Give a
What's that?
plug for that for where your card shop is.
We are located right inside of the Main Street Market on Main Street, Middletown, Connecticut. The last show, a lot of people forget that there's also a Middletown, Rhode Island. So guys like, "Oh, you're right by the hotels." I was like, "There's
Oh,
no." I think we're talking about Connecticut over here. Yeah. So we're open 7 days a week right now for the holidays. Otherwise, for everyone that always asks, other than vacation and the one time I close for a golf tournament, I'm always open Wednesday to Sunday, 5 days a week. So like I'm there. We have a lot of fun. You come in for the sarcasm and you leave with laughs and cards.
That's awesome. Plug the next show.
We got Valentine's Day weekend. You ready for the slogan? The weekend of loving your collectibles with us.
okay.
February 14th and 15th, 2026. Actually, next year is really easy to remember because it's all holidays. We got Valentine's Day weekend, Father's Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, and then whatever date they give us for November. So, very excited to have a nice lineup of dealers at the next event. I think the majority of you have signed up our repeat dealers. The new link that we use actually shows us the how many times you've been a dealer with us since switching to the link. It doesn't show us the full history, right? Because we're not can't go backwards and input everything. So it's very easy to see like, oh, that's a current dealer, accept them quickly. Yeah, very, very excited for that. I mean, Rodney Harrison is, especially for a Patriots fan, probably one of the best ones we could get for the price range for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Sarah Strong too. She'll be there signing her and Ozzy. But
Oh, I look back and I wish I connected with like you and Ryan Shield and like 3 other people to just pay Paige for that one event because like on a solo aspect, like in hindsight, the quote was scary. And I didn't have the money for the quote, but like if 4 or 5 of us like took a percentage each and we actually went through the numbers, it was like, okay, this makes sense. Like not only on the money side, not only would the risk have been completely negated with what we know now with Paige, but I think she just signed with Fanatics. So to put it politely, it ain't happening. Like
Yeah.
there's no way we're ever getting Paige to one of our events again at this point.
Yeah. No. I have to go
But
visit her in New York City.
Was that a big number, you think, like from the NIL? Is that like what, right? Like that had to be, right? Like because could college? No, they couldn't sign before the NIL, right?
correct. I don't
Okay.
think they could sign before without like any type of like massive hoops to jump through and any of that. So I do think it was part NIL. I think she has a very good agent on her side. Because on one end, there are bad promoters out there, right? You sign a contract to do 1,000 pieces and they try to put 2,000 in front of you anyway, right? Like whatever the contract is, there's always promoters out there that are going to try to somehow mess it up. I was too focused on maybe not understanding the Yukon fan base of who would want to meet her because I do believe, and I could be totally wrong on this, that the majority of the Yukon fan base, if they heard a certain price point, would have been like, no. Like, as much as I want to meet her, like, we supported Yukon for the last 30 years. I'm not paying someone that much money to meet them, right? Which could have been totally wrong. I maybe I could have had a conversation with you guys and Ryan Shield and a couple other big W collectors to be like, is this worth it? Am I in my own head? Like, can we pool the money together? Whatever it is, right? But in my experience of other players, the Allen Iversons, anyone else of that same price tag, you heard what I said Iverson was costing before. I
Yeah.
don't think people would have happily gotten in line for a $400 page meet and greet to make it worth the financial side of what the offer was quoted at.
Yeah.
However, you also could have taken a massive haircut to give people the right experience, but I also didn't have what they were asking in my pocket to make that risk alone, nor would I ask anyone to make that risk without enough meetings to understand the risk you're getting into
Yeah.
and the reward of that risk, right? And there just wasn't enough time to talk about it by the time her agent answered and by the time the show was coming around the corner. So, but that is one I look back and regret, like not having like an extra 5 weeks to plan better.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll know, right? Hindsight's 2020. You'll know
Oh,
moving
always.
forward. Sarah's still a
I was
freshman. I
just
mean, she's a
like,
sophomore now, right? So
they're strong. You got
got,
time.
got time with her.
I
AZ will
don't
be
think
leaving soon, so maybe
I
not with
don't
her.
think Sarah likes to sign. I think that's the problem.
You know what's crazy is I love these inscription cards.
She has a
Right?
great signature.
She has a great
It's probably
signature,
a lot of effort for her to sign.
and the cards she should have inscribed, I actually hit, but she never inscribed those cards. She has no inscription cards. All she does is sign her name. She won't write anything else. You see, everybody else is signing like "Go Blue" and "Anchor Down" and all. You know,
Yeah.
Gatorade Player of the Year and this and that, and she doesn't do any of that. So it's tough too when you've had the cards that should have been with an inscription and they don't have it. So yeah, I don't think she likes to sign.
You know what's crazy is we have one show a year at this point to even get an agreement done with pro players on the W side. And I think maybe 2 shows on the college side. On the W side, think about Unrivaled. Unrivaled starts in a couple weeks.
Yep.
They're not around for the February show.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going after a page, she's in Unrivaled. She's not doing it, right?
Yep.
The only show that you can get a page at would be November, because if she does make the playoffs, they play through October. So
Yeah.
the September show's out of it. The June show is out of it during season for sure.
Yeah.
Unless they happen to be up here as an away game and will allow her to leave the team for a couple hours, which not every team wants to allow that, right? And on the college side, you have the June show after the big tournament or the September show, hopefully right before they go back to school and play again.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, even with like if she did sign with Fanatics, I'm sure she did if you said so, that even in June when they have or July when they have that, that show in New York, I mean, I'm sure she's going to be playing somewhere that she won't have the time to be there, you know.
That's a fair
meeting.
point. Now, she did a massive memorabilia deal with them in like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And believe it or not, they actually put the prices out pretty well for people that want to buy her stuff, right? In my opinion, they're pretty reasonable prices, especially for Fanatics.
Hmm.
But I think, I mean, she's signing in Panini products, right? So like
Yeah, she's live.
maybe Panini sold the memorabilia contract to Fanatics to allow them to keep her image out there and to not mess it up for fans, right? But
Mhm.
maybe she's still a Panini exclusive athlete to where we just have to go through Panini, which isn't going to be as bad as Fanatics. Like, you know what? Time will tell. If you want to jump in on that conversation one time, we'll have a sidebar about that. But
Yeah,
time will tell. We'll figure it out.
yeah, absolutely. Look, so excited you came on. This was a great episode. Looking forward to the February show, and hopefully my young co-host here will be able to leave his wife on Valentine's Day to come help me out on trade night.
I know about.
So
Yeah, go for it.
here's what I gotta say about that. For
Okay,
the
let's
few
hear it.
people now, Nicole and I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. Our first ever Valentine's Day 20 years ago. I had an ankle surgery. I left roses at the hospital for her, like the cute thing, right? Because we have been together 20 years this year. And then like the second one was like a massive snowstorm. The third one was like a massive snowstorm. Like, all right, whatever. We go out to dinner other times throughout the year. My only argument to skip Valentine's Day is the same argument that a few people agreed with the other day is most restaurants have like this is our Valentine's Day menu. Here's what you have to have. And it's overpriced. Just take her out on Tuesday. Like just take her out on random Tuesdays or like Valentine's Day is a day that is sold to us to have to celebrate. You don't have to celebrate it.
Yeah, we do Valentine's Day pretty well. Like we were in Paris in Valentine's Day like a few years back. So like
Hey,
we do Valentine's Day. Like
So go to Paris again in July 14th. Call it the almost half of Valentine's Day for the year because it would actually be August, not July, and pretend it's Valentine's Day. And
in,
just join us for that Saturday still.
in Big Ken's world, every day is Valentine's Day, right?
Right, right.
It's not just one day a year; it's 365. I
there you
hope
go.
I mean,
Sherry's
if you
listening.
even if you just speed up the podcast to this part, I'm hoping we're helping if you play this for her, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We might be digging a bigger hole. I don't
No,
know,
no, no,
but
no.
I
we're
gotta tell her.
trying.
I gotta tell her I mentioned her. It was going to make her get all the way to an hour and 18 minutes into the episode to find out where.
I think I'll be able to swing something. I think we'll be able to make something happen.
Good, good.
And I will say this as a last ditch effort.
All right.
If she just wants to go out to dinner after trade night, please, wherever you want to go, call them yesterday.
Yeah.
Because there are still bookings available because no one plans this far out. We already have an 11 top at Jordan's that night because they already had the openings available.
Yeah, we did Tao after the last show.
Yeah,
You're gonna want to call ahead though. So if
Yeah.
you guys are gonna go to Tao after on that night, you need to call tomorrow, make that reservation.
yeah, yeah. I'll go online when we're done here and see what's available.
Yeah, that too. That's it. Yeah, because otherwise it's gonna fill up very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right, Scott. Again, thank you, and hopefully we'll be able to do a live episode the 14th of
That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, that would be fun. Run a live right before that. That would be a blast. Absolutely.
I want to. Oh, Scott, if anybody wants to reach out to you, where just tell them where they can find you.
We'll make it as easy as possible. Every single social media channel, Facebook. I don't really use YouTube that much. Instagram. It's at EC3CON. So EC the number 3CON for EC3Con. We kept it very simple for everyone to find all of our socials. EC3con.com. for any updates. But appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to invite me on here. Hope that this was fun for you guys as well, and looking forward to supporting you guys with both the trade nights as well as any future, lives or podcasts.
Absolutely appreciate that. I want to thank everyone for watching. Thank everyone for listening. Please like and subscribe, and we will be back next week with a brand new episode. Fellas, have a good night.
All right. See you guys later.